Hello, and welcome to the Mainly Mozart podcast. My name is Garrett Harris, and I'm your host. This is episode number 3. I'm going to call this The New York Diaries. It was a warm autumn day on the island of Manhattan. I was on my way to meet with the flutist, Jeffrey Khaner. Jeff is the principal flutist for the Mainly Mozart Festival and the Philadelphia Orchestra. He was in town with the Philadelphia Orchestra to perform in the opening concert of Carnegie Hall's season under the baton of Yannick Nézet-Séguin. And thanks to Jeff's coaching, I just nailed the pronunciation of Yannick Nézet-Séguin. We were meeting at his husband's restaurant, etc., on 44th Street between 8th and 9th Avenue. Since I'm not a New Yorker, I actually enjoy a walk through Times Square. I got off the B train at 42nd Street and walked the few blocks over to etc. At the start of our conversation here, I'm owning up to the fact that I'm a singer and not a musician.
So I do have something of a musical background, a singer's background.
Not a musician.
Not a musician, yes. Singer's background.
Okay.
I mean, I can count to a certain degree.
That's reassuring.
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's what we want to learn or hear from you is just a little bit about the flute. We got a nice dose last festival with the Debussy, the Prelude to the Afternoon of a Faun. I assume that was you playing.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
There were a lot of flute excerpts last year, things that one wouldn't typically expect to find in a Mozart festival. Prokofiev, Classical Symphony, and the Mendelssohn Midsummer Night's Dream, and the Afternoon of a Faun. Those are all big flute excerpts that are almost always asked at auditions.
Oh, nice.
So it was fun to think, oh yeah, I'm going to play the Mozart Festival and have to play all these flute audition excerpts.
So what's your approach? I mean, you don't have to audition, I assume, much anymore. But
No, goodness no.
Yeah. But when you were auditioning, what was your experience? I mean, were you one who had to go take a moment to puke in the bathroom, or you're kind of like, I can take this test?
You know, auditioning is a horrible thing to have to go through for everyone, not just for the people auditioning, but it's no pleasant task for the people that are listening either. And I haven't had to play an audition in, 40 years. But when I was taking auditions, I actually took very few of them, and I was lucky enough to be successful at most of them. And everyone has a different way of preparing for those things. Mostly intense preparation for me was the key. Just being so prepared that I felt that I could perform under any circumstance. Because the audition environment is something so unlike any other that you can't really practice it.
Right.
And auditions are something I've always felt are not something that you get better at the more you do them. You know, I think it's kind of the opposite. The more you do them, if you're not successful, the worse they get, the harder they get, the more the pressure builds. And that can make it intolerable.
Right.
So the auditions are something that I would avoid at all costs. You know, I know some people promote taking every possible audition because there are so few jobs available.
Right, and it does make you feel like you're doing something.
It does, but I've always told my students that I think it's wiser to choose carefully the auditions that you are really serious about, that you really feel you're prepared for, and then to go for them, with as much intensity as possible. And I think that the chances are better if you focus more in that way and take it more seriously than just, this is another learning experience. It's
right.
These things are not meant to be learning experiences. They're meant to be, deadly serious. So that's a horrible topic, auditions.
Isn't it? Like what? They could change. right?
I don't know
Couldn't
how. I don't. They could change your life.
Right. Yeah.
But I don't know how it would be possible to change the process to make them any better or easier.
Right, because there's so much writing on it for everyone.
Well,
the auditors want someone good.
Of course.
They want you to come in and be incredible.
Of course. And that's a key thing to remember for the person who's taking the audition, is that the people behind the screen, I mean, typically they're behind a screen these days, they want to hear you at your best. So they're listening for all the really good things. They're not typically listening for the bad things. So I think there's a misconception out there that you have to be perfect at an audition. You don't have to be perfect, but you have to have the ability to be perfect.
Okay.
And the committee can always tell when something goes wrong just by accident, or when something goes wrong because you're not prepared. And the second is unforgivable. But
That's
the first,
good.
The first is easily excusable.
That's fantastic to know.
Mistakes happen to everyone.
They can tell
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's without question. We all know what it's like when something doesn't go exactly the way you plan it, and how you deal with that, and how you get through it is part of the audition. In fact, if you can miss something and not have it affect you, that's good to know.
Right. Yeah. If things don't go right, are you going to collapse, or do you focus?
Yeah.
I guess are the two poles.
Yeah.
People probably fall anywhere in between.
Yeah. So I wouldn't counsel deliberately making a mistake in order to recover.
Yeah. Look at my recovery skills.
I think the point is that you focus and you keep going no matter what, and you don't let any little thing screw up your mindset.